tea-stained park bench. I hope it's a nice park.
I hope it's a nice bench.
It's an all-new, terrific Tuesday edition of Business Pants featuring Analyst Hole and Spreadsheet Whisperer, Matt Moscardi. How do you like that? Spreadsheet Whisperer.
What is a spreadsheet whisperer?
It's an Analyst Hole, Matt Moscardi. On today's annual Tug of War, we're playing a Tug of War game with lead directors who still use flip phones.
Really?
Called April 29th, 2025, the Who Do You Blame game.
Yay! I like this game.
So do I. I actually learn a lot. I learn a lot in this game, mostly in my own personal research. This is one of the more research intense
Got it
endeavors
today.
Yeah.
So I just got back from traveling. I'm going traveling again tomorrow. I'm traveling all over the place right now. Did not heavily research this episode.
Plug where you're going to be the end of this week. Can you plug that? Is it pluggable?
Yeah, it's pluggable.
Is it open to the public?
It's not open to the public. I
don't
think.
Then don't.
Maybe
then don't
it is.
plug it.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
50-50 women on boards. They're in San Francisco. Their chapters having a talk to. It's very high-powered people who are going to show up, and we're going to talk about the meritocracy. We're going to talk about power gaps on boards and how they work. We're going to talk about how to use the data to get board positions and sort of ask for things and boards to avoid. One of the things they wanted to talk about is how do we identify boards we don't want to be on, which I thought was fascinating. It's some interesting stuff.
So I got two things to say. First of all, if you're going to be at that conference or know someone's going to be there, or maybe you live in the area and are now deciding you're going to go up to Matt and buy something, for Christ's sakes. Buy something. Become a client.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Just do that. The other thing I was going to say is that, it is these shows. I know they sound dumb and they sound hostile and they sound ridiculous, but it's these shows that creates the R&D that formulates the data that Matt can bring to these lovely conferences. It's these stupid shows. Maybe even today we come up with some nugget that will
Let's not
enlighten.
Overpromise.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. All right. Our show today is being sponsored by freeflowanalytics.com.
Yeah, I love
the only platform measuring board power connections and performance for free. The Who Do You Blame game is very simple, taking headlines from really today, yesterday, and through some heavy research modeling that we do, coming up with a series of names usually to who can we blame for this story?
Look,
right?
Stuff happens.
We
should be blaming everybody for everything that happens.
And you can't just blame people. And I say this just to regular people, regular folks. I say this to investors, to high power, whoever you are. You can't just blame the company. You can't just blame the name of the company. Like, oh, I'm mad at Alphabet. That doesn't get you anywhere. What does that get you?
Doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
And just blaming
Blame
the
a person.
libs
Come
for
on.
whatever your problem is. You're can
that
we
can
be
get
more
you somewhere.
specific?
Yeah.
Let's be more specific anyway. Let's give me somebody to blame.
All right, I got a good one, and I'm going to asterisk this one that this story has already changed since it was first written.
I like that. Fast.
I wrote this a few hours ago. It's already changed, but the reason it's changed is kind of the punchline of the story anyway. It's this is what we've been complaining about anyway, but we'll get to that at the end. The headline is White House blasts Amazon over tariff cost report, calling it a hostile and political act by Amazon. So, Matt, all Amazon wanted to do was show consumers how much the items cost comes from tariffs. They want, and one of the reasons why I chose this is that we have been long tinkering with an idea of kind of a nutritional scorecard for companies, like putting labels onto products, putting labels onto companies, and trying to break down all the external costs, all the internal costs. It's a difficult endeavor that we've never fully figured out. I would say, have we figured it out? We're still working on it.
We've done versions of it. Let's just say it's actually really hard. They don't want you to know where everything comes from and where it goes.
And the reason why we're struggling is because not that we don't have the information. We actually have all the information if anyone wants to look at these scorecards. It's that we wanted to make a a consumable version of it that makes sense without being a complete nerd, without, right? You know what I mean? Like, we want it to be as easy as, like, this is how much sugar is in your dumb candy bar, right? But that's not always that easy. But anyway, that's all Amazon wanted to do. They wanted to just tell you the name, the cost of the tariffs, which I think is actually great. I wish that every product I bought on the internet had a breakdown of all the costs, like how much are the workers getting, how much is the CEO getting, however you want to break it down.
How many glasses of water this cost me?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know it all too.
So this is kind of a weird one, Matt. I'm asking you, who do you blame for this? And because this seems like a cool move by Amazon. So, but I'll let you kind of handle the game here. I got some options. Who do you blame? Do you blame CEO Andrew Jassy? Right. After all, he's the quote unquote boss. Is he not? He's the CEO of Amazon. He must be in charge, right?
Right.
Except
but
that
not that.
Yeah, but because maybe, but okay, but here's what I'm thinking. Maybe he feels emasculated, right? Because technically speaking, he only has 6% of influence according to our data. Jeff Bezos has 67% influence. So maybe he needs to lash out. I mean, he's been reading the reports that Bezos and Trump are buddies now. So maybe he's mad at Bezos. Maybe he wants to put his stamp on things, which I love. I love you for that, Andrew Jassy. He also has the lowest batting average on the board at 308, so maybe he's mad at our data, right?
Not good.
And I got to add something that unlike traditional CEOs, he doesn't actually get like a big fat total summary compensation package like his buddies, like his peers, like Brian Cornell over at Target. You know, he's the CEO who hates DEI. He gets $20 million. The eBay CEO, Jamie Iannone, he gets $22 million. But poor Andrew Jassy, he only gets like $1 million because he has $275 million in unvested equity. But it takes a nerd like us. But it takes a nerd like us to figure out how much that he has so much money waiting for him, because the total summary compensation number makes him look like a loser. So maybe he's angry about that. So that's the first person I blame. Maybe it's CEO Andrew Jassy. Maybe he's mad, so he's fighting back against.
That one's boring. That bores me. So
right.
Give me somebody else to blame.
How about Jeffrey Preston Bezos? That's how he's listed in our database. Wow. That's Jeff Bezos. I mean, he's the actual boss, right? He's the executive chair. He's the founder. He's a former CEO, and he's a superstar. He's a superstar CEO. He has 67% of board influence. And Matt, he's so cool that he hangs out with people like Katy Perry. He owns a newspaper. Matt, he even sends penis rockets to nowhere. He just sends penis-shaped rockets to nowhere that do nothing.
They just went up.
And this dude is so impressive that he has, according to his bio in the proxy statement, he has 2 funds, F-U-N-D, 2 funds named after himself, like the Bezos Earth Fund and the Bezos Day One Fund. Well, I don't know what the hell that means. This guy is awesome, right? He's just cool.
He's just what the data suggests is that he is the executive chair and he's all the influence on the board.
But then again, but what's confusing here is that he's a buddy of Trump. So why would he do this? But maybe he's who you blame. The other person I was going to blame was board member and former Pepsi CEO Indra Nooyi, because after all, this is probably a DEI problem, right? Anything that goes wrong in America is you either blame a woman or a person of color, and Indra, thank the Lord, is both of those things.
Wow, winning on all counts.
She's also the chair of Amazon's audit committee, which is tasked with stuff like operational risks and legal and regulatory matters. So, she seems like she might be one of the people to blame here. And you know what, Matt? You know what I learned about Indra? She's also involved with very wokey kind of DEI-y shit. Stuff like science. She's the trustee of a Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. She's into stuff like math. She's a member of the Dean's Advisory Council at MIT's School of Engineering. She's into stuff like art. She's the trustee of the National Gallery of Art. And she's into stuff like giving a shit about people, like stakeholder capitalism stuff. She's the director of Partnership for Public Service. So, she's very woke.
I'm not a fan of anything you're saying.
Okay, so who do you blame?
Well, look, not to bury the lead here since we know the story has changed. But one way to figure out figure out who to blame is to watch who apologizes, right? And if I just went straight with the data, it'd be Bezos. Bezos is the guy you have to blame because he's the guy with all the power. as much as we'd love to pin this on the woman of color, that would be a real win. Which I'm sure in the apology, if Bezos gives one, he would probably say, "I apologize for Indra Nooyi," right? Like that's what he would say in the apology.
I don't know how she got there. Yeah.
Andy Jassy is just he's collateral damage. He's nothing. There's nothing going on.
So
there.
who are you blaming?
I'm going with Bezos. I'm going.
I mean,
with Bezos is the.
I gotta tell you, now that I'm gonna update the story, now I think maybe you're wrong. I maybe think I am right that maybe it is Jassy, because here's what happened, Matt, is that literally an hour after I wrote the story, and this is based on this morning's headlines, Amazon. I'm reading from CNBC. Amazon later clarified that the plan to show tariff surcharges was never approved and is not going to happen. And and then they also say that Trump personally called Bezos on Tuesday morning to express his displeasure. So I'm actually thinking that Jassy came up with this, and then Bezos stepped in and be like, no, you don't run this company. Get off your CEO high horse, right?
Why would I mean, why would it? You can't. Why would anyone care if you put this on the product?
I don't know.
Like
I
they
don't
have
know. Who
sales
cares?
tax on the product. They have.
Who cares? And people notice prices going up. I mean, they're not lunkheads, and they know about the tariffs, so they're gonna blame the tariffs anyway. So I don't know.
This is like unbelievable. I wonder what Bezos said. I wonder.
Look, this is just. I know that Amazon is an easy example. I know that you don't necessarily need our data to know that Bezos controls Amazon, but it's the only data out there in the entire marketplace of this kind of data, whatever you call it, ESG data. I don't know what it is. That puts it quantifies his power on that board, and again, proving once again that this is not Andy Jassy's company; it's Bezos' company.
No, it was never his company. Let's get
okay,
get
but I'm
that.
saying, I'm telling you, Matt, but only freeflowanalytics.com can quantify that it's not Jassy's company. No other data providers know how to quantify that.
That is true.
I'm just telling you.
All right. Do you want me? Now I'll give you someone to blame. Right? Ready? You ready?
Oh
for
yeah,
this?
go ahead.
Wait, did I get that right or wrong?
I think you got it wrong and right.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I love a good game where I get it right and wrong. All right.
Yeah.
Here's the headline I saw.
All right.
Novavax appoints Charles Newton to board of directors.
What's Novavax?
So Novavax makes COVID vaccine,
that sounds
like
woke,
a less used COVID vaccine. They're working on. They're at the end stages of like an annual update for flu and COVID.
That sounds woke too. Yeah.
They also make a malarial vaccine. And
that
they have
sounds woke.
A particular way they make
this
the
all
vaccine.
sounds very sciencey, Matt.
It is very sciencey. It's like they're. But here's the thing about Chuck Newton, Charlie Chuck Newton, who they just appointed to the board.
Sounds like a Red Sox fan.
He's got a background from B of A, Merrill, Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, and Lehman Brothers. He's an
so he's
banker.
a Yankees fan. Okay, yeah.
He is now the CFO of a pharma company.
Oh, good for him.
He's the CFO. So his investment banking experience was in like biotech and pharma. So
okay.
He's got his education in business administration, and I love when they're embarrassed. When directors are embarrassed about their undergraduate degree, they actually don't list what the degree is. They just say a Bachelor of Arts from the college, right? Like they don't say...
Oh, this is a new theory of yours, that you think that they're embarrassed by Chuck Newton's degree.
Well, I don't think the company's embarrassed. I think the directors themselves are embarrassed to state out loud what they got a degree in.
So do we know what he got a degree in?
He got an MBA from Tuck.
but that's cool.
Right. He listed that one out.
That's manly.
Not only did he list it out, he spelled out like a Master in Business of Administration from Tuck at Dartmouth.
Yeah, at Dartmouth.
Like the whole thing.
Yeah, because MBA sounds like you get that online, but if you spell it out, that sounds serious.
As if he was angry that Charlie Munger would get upset, he wrote Bachelor of Arts from Colby.
Oh,
Colby College.
Yeah, that's where my daughter goes. Yeah, does that mean he studied poetry or something? What did he study?
I'm guessing it was it was like
the works of William Carlos Williams. Yeah,
and then pivoted into investment banking. Because otherwise, wouldn't you write like everybody else on this board wrote down like I got a business degree
That's an
at
interesting
this
thought, yeah. Because Colby's known for
undergrad.
things like environmental science and stuff. So that's not very, that's too woke, maybe.
So this is who got put on the board. Chuck Newton, a finance bro
Yeah.
with a background he's probably embarrassed about, and I'm just guessing
Okay.
about that. But
So you're asking me who do I blame for him going on the board of Novavax?
who do we blame for him
For
getting
him.
chosen? For
Is he
this
one of the
board?
options? Is he one of the choices?
He's
for
not
his
one of the
existence?
choices.
Okay, okay, all right, go
He's
ahead,
not one
go
of the
ahead.
choices. Do we blame
Yeah.
current CEO of Novavax, John Jacobs, who,
Okay.
as of before, 5 days ago when he got appointed, John Jacobs had the highest influence of the board at 23%.
Oh.
Easy to blame that guy. That guy
Sure.
has a background in business, background in finance, and he's the CEO of course, a biotechnology company. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So would it be like finance bro to finance bro, right? Like, the CEO likes to choose the people he knows he's comfortable with, that, they both have finance econ backgrounds, like they can hang out at
Yeah,
a bar and talk
that makes
about
sense.
like inflation, right? Like, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
And John's he's a pretty newish CEO, so I could see him wanting to start to bring his own bros on the board, right?
Right? Maybe it's
Yeah.
time to bring my bros, right?
Yeah. I like that.
Do you blame the new board chair and nominating committee chair, Margaret McGlynn?
Oh, she's the board
actually-
chair. Okay.
She's the board chair. She just became the board chair 5 days ago.
Oh.
She's inheriting the role from James Young, who left the board chair position with 16% influence. The likelihood is that Margaret McGlynn will be the most influential person on this board. She will be board chair and head of the nominating committee at the
Okay.
same time. She probably have equal or more influence than the current CEO.
So the former CEO is leaving the board too.
The-
He's leaving.
Yes,
James
he's
Young.
gone.
Okay.
Gone.
Okay. So
Gone.
that's going to increase her influence. Absolutely.
Do we blame the fact that someone may have thought there was too much science on this board and we needed more, techie
Well-
or finance people?
According to our data, is there too much?
No,
science on
not
the
at
board?
all.
Okay.
The actual pharmaceutical science research on this
Yeah.
board, Young had a background in science and chemical science and pharmacology. Now that he's gone, there's only 2 actual scientists left on the board of 9 people.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
6 of the board members have finance backgrounds. 1 person is a lawyer.
Okay. I guess
but
you need a lawyer.
You
Yeah.
can see, John Jacobs being like, it was really annoying to have like 3 sciencey people on this board. It would be much better if we had a bunch of finance bros.
Yeah.
That'd be much more fun. So
Yeah, because
let's
they're trying to sell shit. They don't care what it is. They're just selling.
Right. Last year, in fact, they had an activist who still owns a stake in the company, the Shaw Capital, who was like doing activisty things until they signed a deal with Sanofi last year. And then the activist was like, "We withdraw our activism. We like that deal you signed."
Okay.
So deals, right? Like deal making. Let's get
Deal
some
making.
deals.
Yeah, I love deals. Yeah.
So too much science.
Too much science.
You guys are
Okay.
doing all the biotech.
So I
wrong.
would blame
It's gotta be all
too
the
much.
finance.
I got it. Right. Right. Okay.
Right? Are you
That's a
blaming-
bit of a sarcastic choice, but I still like it. Yeah.
Okay, well, how about this one? Do we blame DEI?
Well,
Because
it's 2025. Yeah.
It is
Good-
we blame
good
DEI
choice.
for
It's a
everything.
good choice.
By their SEC disclosure. So I looked at every single board member, and I'm going to say, however crass this sounds, when I look at the 9 board members, they are all very white looking.
Okay.
I
Sure.
I actually looked not just at their picture on this website. I looked them all up on their LinkedIn. I looked to see if like they had a background, like join the Hispanic Biotech Alliance or whatever. I tried to find any information I could. They just look straight up like a bunch of white guys,
Okay.
white people, right? They did say in their SEC filing last year that they had 7 men and 2 women, and they had 1 person who was 2 or more races.
Okay. Well, I will say this, that according to I'm looking at the data here, the demographics of Gaithersburg, Maryland, where Novavax is headquartered, is 33% white.
33.
So it's 13% black, 15% Asian, Hispanic, 36% Hispanic. So I don't know. Yeah, but that doesn't match up. That sounds a little.
Well, here's the weird thing
Yeah.
to me.
Go ahead.
in the filing it says 2 female, 7 male, and that's 9. And that's the gender identity. In the demographic background, they have 2 options: white or 2 or more races or ethnicities.
Yeah.
It says the 2 women are white, the 7 men are white, and then it adds a 1
Yeah.
that says 2 or more races underneath that. By counting, just some basic math, according to this, they have 10 people for the demographics,
Oh, interesting.
but 9 people for the board.
Yeah, interesting.
So I don't know what that means, but that sounds woke by itself.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Charles Newton
You
is
think that's
white.
woke? Yeah. You think it's woke to have? I don't know where you're going with this one, but
But
keep
we
going.
have to blame DEI for something.
Okay,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
That's
okay.
all I'm doing here.
The reason why I bring up the demographic data is that clearly they're not drawing from the non-white population where the company's headquarters. So
No.
so maybe we blame DEI for not for what? For not getting in the boardroom? Maybe we blame them for I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I think we blame DEI just in general.
Just in general.
Just somewhere, someone divert. I mean, frankly, black people don't even get malaria. So, like, I don't know what
True.
Novavax we need to sell.
Verifiably true. Yeah. Who else can we blame here?
The last thing we can blame is investors themselves because maybe they're putting Chuck Newton on this board because he's an investor background, like he's like they wanted more of those investors on the board because last year this is a classified board and you don't see this that often, but last year the new board chair, the woman who just got promoted like yesterday to be board chair,
Margaret McGlynn, yeah.
The resounding backing she got from investors last year, she got 52% votes for.
What? Was there a proxy
passed.
contest? You said there was an activist investor
who withdrew his activist competition before the vote.
52%.
In fact, the entire class of this for last year was the new board chair who just got promoted, got 52%.
This is crazy.
The PhD, one of the 2 people who actually have science background, got 58%. And a guy from a family foundation, David Mott, got 53%.
What do we know why they were so angry, the investors?
35% of the shares are owned by State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, and Shaw Capital, who was the activist, and they owned about 7%. So Shaw Capital did not clearly move the vote just by themselves. They must have convinced ISS and Glass Lewis at the time or something, but maybe they didn't. No investors paid attention when Shaw Capital was like, "Oh, we give up the proxy fight because you signed this deal," and the investors still all voted against these directors. I don't really know what the problem was, but
the obvious problem would be, I guess, that as of 2021, the stock price was $290, and today it's about $7. I'm guessing that's where their anger is coming from.
That is entirely because most of their business comes from vaccines, COVID, and flu.
That's an uncomfortable time to be selling vaccines.
Not a great time. Nobody cares about it anymore.
Look,
so who do you blame here?
I would typically jump to the CEO or at least someone with the highest influence, or maybe even investors, because they seem to be do-nothing-y. But you know what? I think investors had it right. So Margaret, what's her name, McGlynn, actually, she joined the board in 2020. So this was before the stock price is high. So she's been there throughout the whole run here. Yeah. And she got, I mean, that's kind of shocking. I mean, she should have resigned. Margaret. I have been bitching about for a while now that even 10% votes against is a kind of a catastrophic
immediate resignation.
Yeah, like that's pretty shocking. I mean, but when you get up to 20, 30, like forget it. You're gone. That Margaret took 52% support and still accepted the chair position.
The promotion.
That's brazen. I'm blaming her, absolutely.
Wow. All right. Oh, in a way, you're blaming DEI then.
I guess I am. Yeah, proudly so. Yeah, proudly so. That's embarrassing. Here's a call to all directors. If you get, I'm going to be fair to you, but if you get 30% or more votes against, you should resign. Okay.
I like that. I like this rule. Yeah. I like this rule. All right. So now your turn. Give me somebody to blame.
Back to the world of Trump.
Yeah.
Here's the headline: Trump World's Laura Loomer. I don't really know who she is. They call her a far-right activist. I know she's another one of these stooges.
She's a Robbie Starbuck. She's an internet troll.
Conspiracy theorist nut.
Yeah. She's the nobody.
She takes aim at a woke Lockheed Martin and its $2 trillion F-35 program. So she's lashing out against Lockheed Martin for being woke, which means that I'm guessing every Trump fan, every Republican probably agrees that Lockheed Martin is woke. She said that Lockheed...
This is the company that makes weapons, right?
Yeah.
Well,
there's another part. Yeah. She said that Lockheed is, quote, increasingly obsessed with pushing a woke agenda.
Bombing stuff is a woke agenda?
Yeah. And not only that in January, as soon as Trump took over, it's completely scrapped its DEI program. So I don't know where this loony bird is coming from. I don't know what she's talking about. But who do you blame for this story?
Good question.
Yeah. Do we blame the Lockheed Martin's 2025 proxy statement that mentions diversity 5 times? That's a lot of times.
That is a lot of times. I'm starting to blame it now.
Yeah. Although, if you do your due diligence, I should add that all 5 of those instances were in the anti-woke, anti-DEI shareholder proposal introduced by the Bunsen Family Trust. So the company itself is totally out on diversity. They're totally out on DEI. I don't know what Laura Loomer is talking about, but there is an anti-DEI proposal there.
But it says DEI in it. So
it's weird, Matt. How does this proposal even? Exxon has no proposals. They're suing their shareholders. How does this proposal even get on? How do they even vote on this? Lockheed said in its opposition to this proposal said, we already publicly stated following that Trump took over that we got rid of our DEI. Like anything to do with affirmative action is gone. Like they announced they proudly saying this. Like we're out on DEI. So how does this get to a vote? I don't know.
I would love for like conservative media in this country to pick up on the fact that they said diversity 5 times in the proxy statement with no context around where that came from. I love that as a news story.
The second one, who do we blame? The second one is, how about the 3-headed white guy leadership group, which represents 53% of influence, according to freeflowanalytics.com. That includes CEO chair James Takelet and his $24 million in pay, lead independent director and nominating committee chair Thomas Falk, who's been on the board since 2010, but somehow he's still independent. Or the longest tenured director, David Burritt, who he's been on the board since 2008.
I love that the longest tenured guy is the guy after the guy from 2010. Right?
Yeah. So you could blame them. Okay, I'm going to take one of your tactics, Matt. Since this is a woke DEI issue, why don't we blame the black guy?
Oh, well, I mean, that's a clear win right there.
Right? Yeah. Oh, wait, never mind. There are no black people on this board.
Yeah,
so I tried. I really did. I tried.
But there must be a woman somewhere.
Okay, there you go. That's my other choice. How about we blame a woman? And we do have Deborah Reed Klages. And while she has no leadership roles on this board, she does sit on the board of Caterpillar, which is one of the first companies to get rid of its DEI policies. Although that doesn't, how does that feed Laura Loomer's theory? I don't know. Finally, Matt, what can we blame investors? Because according to Laura Loomer, this company's been a problem for years. So investors must be acting accordingly. Although, according to MSCI data, average director support since 2015 has been roughly 95%.
So I know in this story, the reason why they talk about Lockheed Martin was like they're developing a jet plane, like a fighter plane.
As they do.
That has had massive delays and cost overruns and all sorts of problems. And it just seems like when a company sucks, they just say it's woke.
Yes, that's the new way, yes.
Literally no evidence. In fact, do you want to hear? So Lockheed is one of the more connected groups.
Oh, I bet.
Of companies, like in terms of their directors. Here are some of the companies that these directors who are currently on the board, here are some of the other company boards that they sit on. They include the Aerospace Industries Association. Well, that makes sense, you know. How about the American Petroleum Institute?
Okay, sure. I don't understand that one,
Caterpillar,
Yep. I mentioned that.
Chevron,
Chevron. Yep.
Defense Industry Initiative on Business Ethics and Conduct. Now, there you go. That one seems woke, except that that's the CEO of the company who
Yeah.
sits on that. So, Halliburton.
Of course.
Halliburton?
Yeah.
Has anybody ever said Halliburton was woke?
I'm sure they could figure out how to call it woke. Yeah.
National Association of Manufacturers, World Business Chicago,
Yep.
United States Steel, Occidental Petroleum. This is the least woke board.
It's like a bunch of Ben and Jerry's. Yeah.
This is literally the most traditional American board I could think of.
By a mile.
By a mile.
Yeah.
I don't like any of these options.
Yeah. Who do you blame for this?
You gotta. You know what
You
I'm
could
gonna
blame
do?
the non-existent black guy. Yeah.
No, no, I'm gonna blame the mention of diversity 5 times.
Yeah.
That's
a
the
lot.
only explanation, right? Like
Yeah.
that is the level of research that goes on when you call somebody woke. That basically it was the anti-woke proposal that added the word diversity to the proxy so that they could say they mentioned diversity 5 times, it's woke, is a perfect reasoning. That's a good motive. So
It's
I'm
also
gonna go
just
with that.
great. It's just great political theater in general. You're yelling at the company that has already scrapped its DEI policies. You're yelling at it for its DEI policies.
They scrapped it last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was like
well, it was actually
immediate.
no. It was right when Trump took over because that's how they do, right?
Yeah, that's
all right. You got
Um,
anything else?
Yeah, I got one more for you.
Yeah, I got one more too. Yeah, you go ahead.
All right, I'll go first. All right, here is the headline I saw. Sam Altman says OpenAI will fix ChatGPT's annoying new personality as users complain the bot is sucking up to them.
Well, okay. They're complaining about that? I don't mind people sucking up to me.
Well, apparently, when you talk to the chatbot, it now showers you with praise constantly.
I like that. Yeah, I need that. No one praises me. I'm going to start using it. Yeah.
So if you're writing things like, "What do you think about this?" or like, "Can you give me," like.
What does it say? It says like, "Hey, handsome. Here's what I think."
No. Even when you say things like, "I want to make a code that, will wash my windows," right?
Yeah.
It says things. The first things it says are, "That is one of the greatest ideas I've ever heard."
I
think
gotta
that's
tell you,
fabulous.
I've been using ChatGPT a little bit recently. That never happens to me. I've never seen that.
It doesn't actually like you, but it does
Okay.
that. That's the new
Well,
model. That's
because
the
it
things
probably
the new model says.
Yeah, because you fed in a lot of our show scripts, and it knows how much I hate Sam Altman. So that's
true.
why it's not praising me. Yeah, go
In
ahead.
fact, here's the line from the article, the Fortune article covering this. Quote, ChatGPT's new personality is so positive, it's verging on sycophantic, and it's putting people off. That's what they're saying.
Okay, this is
People
so
are actually
stupid.
complaining.
Oh, our life is so dumb. Yeah, go ahead.
Who do we blame for AI?
Go
being
ahead.
A big fat suck
Give me
up?
some
Do
choices.
we blame
Yeah.
Sam Altman
Yes.
for being a big fat Trump suck up?
Yes.
He's basically, like every other
He
tech
loves him
bro's
now. He
been
loves him
out
now.
there sucking up to the Trump administration,
Yeah,
right?
loves him.
Do we blame Sam Altman
Oh, I like this.
for having an insipid tech bro personality, desperately seeking fame and attention of everybody on earth? So one way to get everyone's attention is to just say like, "Oh, I think you're great. I think you're amazing. Like, pay attention to me," right?
Yeah.
Do we blame Sam Altman for firing the board members that didn't suck up? Because
I don't
now
like
there's
that.
nobody
I don't
left.
like
There's no
that.
counterbalance. There's
Yeah,
nobody
it's
to say,
over.
"Stop sucking up."
It's over. Yeah.
It's over, right? Or do we blame Sam Altman for putting himself on the board and surrounding himself with other suck-ups?
Okay.
You see what I did there?
Yeah.
I only gave you one real option.
I'm going to go with, there's a nuanced option here. I'm going to go for the Sam Altman number 2 for having an insipid tech bro personality.
There it is. Yeah.
Because the heart of this, there's some combination of the obvious is greed, right? I mean, these people are making astronomical levels of money. They're buying half of Hawaii. It's one of the issues, but it's the other thing. It's this desire for to be immortal, for fame, for attention. I don't know why they all seek it so heavily, but that's the thing that seems to be screwing up our world now. It's just the amount of attention these people seek.
Yeah,
it's
they
just overwhelming.
They're so desperate for attention. In fact,
Yeah.
there was another headline that you pulled about how Mark Zuckerberg said that college is no longer preparing people
I
for
saw
the
that,
workforce
unfortunately,
or
yeah.
whatever. And
Education expert Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah.
even that felt like I need validation for having dropped out of college, being like a man flake middle schooler who dropped out of college. I need to validate the fact that I dropped out by saying that people who stay in college to learn stuff.
I mean, can
to
you
the
imagine?
end?
Imagine the idiocy of that statement. Yeah.
I mean,
No matter what you're studying. Well, first of all, most U.S. colleges have some kind of core requirements that cover math, science, and humanities. But just the statement alone to suggest that an extra 4 years of intense learning with with the world's like best teachers, not only with some of the surrounded by incredibly smart peers from all across the world, that somehow that's not a valuable exercise for for whatever you do as an adult. It's insipid thought, Mark.
It is magical that like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months ago, all of these CEOs and tech bros were endorsing and sucking up to Trump, and now there is a massive move. Have you noticed headline after headline like trickled in with all like inside tariffs, inside all the headlines covering like the CEO says stuff? Warren Buffett said he never asks about a college degree. Mark Zuckerberg saying college doesn't prepare you for anything. Musk said college was a fraud, like
Peter
a scam.
Thiel hates colleges.
Peter Thiel hates college. There is the Trump administration is obviously going to war with every elite institution that it can find that doesn't do what it asks. There is very clearly the CEOs are backstopping a move against learning shit now. That's what we're doing. We're fighting learning shit.
To be fair to Mark Zuckerberg, it is probably because 90% of students that come out of who are educated probably don't want to create horrible companies that ruin and rot our brains like Meta platforms. So
I'm sorry I got to the part of college where they taught me basic ethics and you didn't get there yet. I'm sorry about that.
Ugh.
It's really nuts. All right, but good choice.
I got one more. Can I wrap up the show?
Yeah, let's wrap up the show before it goes 700 hours.
Here's the headline: Starbucks union. Don't forget, supposedly there's still kind of a struggle, a worker union struggle at Starbucks. They've thought that Brian Niccol would help solve this. It's still kind of going on. Here's the headline: Starbucks union rejects company's recent offer of at least 2% annual pay raise.
Wow, 2?
So not only were the latest proposal, they were guaranteeing annual raises of at least 2%, but there were no other things like changes to healthcare or just that. That's what Starbucks offered, just a minimum 2% raise. So who do you blame for this? Who do you blame for the union rejecting it? Do you blame the union for being greedy? Wow. Right? Because according to the data, the company pays its baristas about $19 an hour on average.
Way too much.
So that's $39,520 per year. A 2% raise, Matt, would result in an increase of $790 a year.
Wow.
So to turn that down, right? To turn that down does seem greedy.
Yeah, it's really
$790. That's before taxes, of course. So do you blame the union or do you blame investors? Because average director support at Starbucks has been 96% over the last 2 years. Despite all the turmoil at Starbucks. I mean, we talk about Starbucks all the time. I mean, and this is even an investor class that supported the new CEO, Brian Niccol's ridiculous $96 million pay package, which included a $5 million cash handout, a devilishly perverse CEO pay ratio of 6,666 to 1, Matt. 6,666 to 1.
That's very Satan-y.
Not to mention that he's getting complete use of the Starbucks private jet to travel between his home and Starbucks. And on top of that, Matt, he's getting $250,000 in personal non-commuting travel per year.
It's worth saying that
investors were okay with all of that.
The commuting part the anti-woke even are upset about.
Yes,
Like,
even the
for-
anti-woke are angry about that.
Filing shareholder proposals
It's absurd,
against that.
Matt.
Yeah.
That investors supported this pay package is just kind of dumb, right? I mean, but so do you blame investors, or how about the CEO we're talking about, Brian Nickel?
Yeah.
He's a guy so wonderful that they scrapped their independent chair nonsense and they gave him both titles. He's now the CEO and the chair. That's a policy they haven't had in a long time. But this guy, he's got quite an ego. He needs to run his own board. So do you blame Brian Nickel, or finally, Matt, do you blame lead independent director and nominating committee chair Jorgen Vig Nudstorp? I mentioned him because he's the only director that gets any votes against. He's averaged over 10% votes against over the past 3 AGMs.
Really?
And Matt, his favorite drink, according to the proxy, is the caramel macchiato that has 33 grams of sugar. And the American Heart Association recommends that women consume no more than 25 grams of sugar per day.
Well, he's not a woman.
Oh, okay, but I'm just
So
saying.
you can get the extra
but,
sick.
But we can still blame him for endorsing drinks that maybe are giving women diabetes. Or I'm just saying, I'm giving you options. Who do we blame
that
here?
felt like DEI.
Yeah.
Like the raise that they're suggesting comes to $2.76 per day, which
My God,
would
that's
which
not enough
actually,
for a drink at
it
Starbucks,
doesn't-
is
you
it?
can't even buy a fucking drink there.
And don't forget, and Brian Nickel, actually, one of his first initiatives is to get rid of all the discounts on drinks, all the coupons that you can get through the app. He doesn't like that. He got rid of all that.
A 2% raise?
Yeah, well,
yes.
yes.
Tariffs on the biggest producers of coffee went up like 40%, right? Like, how do you even justify in a negotiation?
Yeah.
We thought about it. We think less than inflation is fair.
How about the fact that in the year you're offering this, in his very own proxy statement, he has a CEO pay ratio higher than I've ever seen, 6,666 to 1. We always joke that if it's 365 or higher, it means the CEO is making the average pay of the worker on the day one. I mean, he's making it in I haven't done the math, but he must be making it like in the first 2 minutes, right?
Yeah,
I mean, of
think
the year.
that's correct. Yeah.
I mean, that's just
I think the only answer here is investors, and I think
right.
that for
They could have rejected that pay proposal.
Well, let's
at a
just
minimum.
say the investors elected the board that picked Brian Nickel, right?
Yeah.
And they refused to not elect them. They constantly reelect them, and they approve the pay
Very high
package.
support. Very high support. Yeah, 96% support.
I mean, so what do you expect from a guy who you just gave everything he possibly could have asked for, including remote work from Southern California to the Seattle headquarters as the CEO? And I know they say, I read the whole thing. It says he's spending most of his time in Seattle in a temporary residence until he get built someplace.
Oh,
but he's
stop.
flying
Just
back
stop.
and forth, and they're just going to pay for this temporarily or whatever. Get over it. A CEO who you are giving a 6,666 to 1 pay ratio to should live where he works.
$96 million pay package.
I think he can afford his own flights.
Yeah, not to mention that they completely consolidated power on him. So they basically forced the removal of Melody Hobson. She had been one of the most important people on that board for a long time, and they consolidated the roles of CEO and chair, something that hasn't been done there in a while. They did all this for Brian.
$790 a year. That's before taxes, isn't it? That's
before taxes.
Before taxes. So.
And to be fair, to anyone who's going to complain, it's $700. I'm going to be precise. $790.40.
Wow.
Yeah, I was rounding down. So.
All right, I love the Who You Blame game. I feel like
it's an exhausting game. It's too much information. Too many facts.
It's the only way to actually figure out who we should blame for stuff. That's all we got. That's Hazelnut Rallis. I'm your analyst, Cole. I'm Scotty. We are free float. This Friday I am out. So Damien, it's up to you whether or not you're going to round out the week.
All my stupid thoughts. No one needs to hear my thoughts.
But otherwise, everything goes back to normal next week. When
For
we
once.
We're going to have a proxy countdown next week.
All kinds of stuff.
Our Tuesday and Friday show, we've got Cheryl the Primacy, Mike Levin, and Ann season. And actually, if you missed it, I was on Shareholder Primacy last week.
Yes.
Where we talked about proxy season, and this being the season of the activists. This is activists winning this year. That's the template for the year. Go check that out. Until next week, goodbye.